In a world where everyone competes to be louder, where attention is fought over like a commodity, silence becomes your ultimate power. It's the weapon most men overlook, but it's the very thing that will set you apart and capture her attention in ways words never could. When you remain silent, you communicate control. You show her that you don't need to fight for her attention, that you are not like the others who chase, plead, or over-explain. Your silence demonstrates that you are different, calm, composed, and confident in who you are. A woman's ego thrives on validation. It's built on the attention and reactions she gets. But when you don't feed into that, when you stay quiet and grounded, it disrupts the dynamic. Suddenly, she starts to question herself. Why isn't he reacting? Why isn't he chasing like everyone else? That uncertainty draws her to you. Silence breaks the cycle of expectation. While other men try to impress her with words, you impress her by saying nothing. It's not about ignoring her, it's about showing her that you don't play the same game. You don't need to. And that confidence is irresistible. She may test you. She may try to provoke a reaction, to see if she can pull you into the emotional chaos. But your silence will show her that you're in control, not her. You won't be swayed by her mood, her words, or her attempts to manipulate the situation. This unshakable presence is what will make her respect you. When you master the art of silence, you shift the power dynamic. Instead of reacting to her, she starts reacting to you. She begins to seek your attention, your approval, your validation. Why? Because your silence makes her curious. It makes her want to understand you, to figure out what you're thinking. This is where you break the ego. Not by arguing, not by proving yourself, but by showing her that you are a man who doesn't need to. Silence is strength. It's the ultimate display of self-mastery. It shows her that you are not controlled by your emotions, that you are above the petty games that so many others play. When she senses this, she can't help but be drawn to you. It's instinctual. Women are attracted to men who exude calm, who don't let their emotions rule them. Your silence becomes a magnet, pulling her closer without you having to say a word. In the beginning, it might confuse her. She might even become frustrated. But that's because your silence is something she's not used to. Most men give her exactly what she expects: attention, validation, reactions. You, however, remain a mystery. And that mystery is powerful. You don't need to explain yourself to her. You don't need to justify your actions or your intentions. Your silence communicates everything she needs to know, that you are a man of value, a man who doesn't seek approval, a man who knows his worth. Over time, she will come to respect this. She will see you as someone who stands apart, someone who doesn't bend or break under pressure. And that respect will grow into attraction. But silence is not about ignoring her or playing games. It's about showing her that you are in control of yourself and the situation. It's about demonstrating strength without needing to speak. When you remain silent, you let her come to you. You allow her to break her own ego by realizing that she doesn't control you. And in that realization, she will start to see you differently, not as someone she can manipulate, but as someone she must respect and desire. Silence is your power. It's the key to breaking her ego and capturing her interest. In a world where everyone else is shouting, your quiet strength will be the thing she can't ignore. And in the end, it's not what you say that will win her over, it's the calm, confident presence you bring through your silence. Master this, and you'll never have to chase anyone. They'll come to you, drawn by the strength they feel in your quiet, unshakable demeanor. This is how you break through her ego and leave a lasting impression. Silence is a language that most men never learn to speak, but it's one that has the power to change everything. It's not just about keeping quiet, it's about using silence as a tool to communicate strength, discipline, and unshakable confidence. When you practice silence, you begin to rewire the way people see you. Women, in particular, are drawn to a man who doesn't give away his thoughts or emotions too easily. It's rare. It's intriguing. And it's irresistible. The beauty of silence is that it forces her to fill the gaps. She'll start to overthink, questioning why you're not reacting like everyone else. Her ego, which thrives on attention and validation, begins to falter. Instead of you chasing her, she starts chasing you. This shift happens because silence disrupts the expected dynamic. Most men talk too much, trying to prove their worth through words. But when you remain silent, you show that your worth doesn't depend on anyone else's approval. You don't need to explain yourself because you're secure in who you are. In moments of tension, silence is even more powerful. When she's testing you or trying to provoke you, staying quiet communicates that you're not easily shaken. It tells her, without words, that you're in control, not her, not the situation, and certainly not your emotions. This level of composure is something that very few men have, and it sets you apart instantly. Silence also creates an air of mystery. She'll start to wonder what you're thinking, why you're not reacting, and what makes you so different. This curiosity pulls her in because people are naturally drawn to what they can't fully understand. You become the man who's not just another open book, but a puzzle worth solving. In the early stages of interaction, silence works as a filter. It separates those who are genuinely interested in you from those who are merely seeking attention. A woman who is intrigued by your silence will make the effort to get closer to you, to understand you. She will break her own ego by coming to you instead of expecting you to chase her. But silence isn't about manipulation. It's about self-respect. It's about showing that you value your energy and don't waste it on unnecessary words or reactions. When she sees this, it commands her respect. She knows she's dealing with someone who operates on a higher level, someone who doesn't get pulled into trivial games. Over time, your silence will create a deeper connection. When you do speak, your words will carry more weight because they're not given freely. She'll listen more intently, value what you say, and see you as a man of substance. This is how you create lasting attraction, by letting your actions and presence speak louder than words ever could. Even in conflict, silence is your greatest weapon. Arguments thrive on back-and-forth exchanges. But when you stay calm and quiet, you disarm the situation. You force her to confront her own emotions, while you remain grounded. This balance of strength and patience is what will make her see you as someone who can handle anything. In relationships, silence becomes a foundation for mutual respect. When she knows you're not reactive, she'll feel secure around you. She'll know that you're not controlled by your emotions or by external pressures. This creates a sense of stability that's rare and highly attractive. Silence also teaches you to listen more. When you're not focused on speaking, you become more attuned to her words, her actions, and even her emotions. This allows you to understand her on a deeper level, which further strengthens the connection. But above all, silence is a reflection of your inner strength. It shows that you don't need to perform, to prove, or to seek approval. You are enough as you are, and that confidence radiates outward. Mastering silence doesn't mean you never speak. It means you speak with intention, with purpose, and only when it truly matters. It's about knowing that your value isn't tied to how much you say, but to the energy and presence you bring into every interaction. By using silence as your strength, you shift the dynamic in every relationship, especially with women. You become the man who doesn't chase but attracts. The man who doesn't react but observes. The man who doesn't follow but leads. This is how you break her ego, not by force, but by showing her a level of composure and confidence that she can't ignore. Through your silence, you become unforgettable. Silence is the rarest form of strength in a world driven by impulsive reactions and constant noise. As you master it, you'll notice how people, especially women, begin to respond to you differently. Silence creates an invisible boundary, a signal that you are not easily accessed or influenced. This is what makes you stand out, what makes her take notice, and what ultimately breaks her ego. The beauty of silence lies in its simplicity. When you say less, people listen more. When you don't react, you're the one who controls the situation. Women are naturally drawn to men who don't feel the need to over-explain, defend, or chase. Your silence communicates value, that your time, energy, and words are not given freely. Silence also shifts the focus. Instead of putting the spotlight on her and feeding her ego, your silence redirects the energy. She starts to feel unsure, questioning why you're not reacting the way most men do. This makes her curious and intrigued. The power dynamic changes, and suddenly she's the one seeking your attention, your reaction, and your validation. This isn't about playing games. It's about being intentional. Most men fall into the trap of talking too much, thinking that words will win her over. But words often dilute your message. They can be dismissed, ignored, or forgotten. Silence, on the other hand, leaves a lasting impression. It lingers. It makes her think about you long after the interaction is over. When she tests you, whether it's by provoking a reaction, challenging your boundaries, or pushing for attention, your silence speaks louder than any words. It says, I am not controlled by you. I am not swayed by this moment. This kind of emotional stability is rare and magnetic. It tells her that you are a man who knows his worth and doesn't need to prove it to anyone. Over time, your silence builds respect. She begins to see you as someone who is grounded, composed, and confident. These qualities are deeply attractive because they signal that you're a man who can handle challenges, who doesn't crumble under pressure, and who doesn't play into the typical dynamics of ego and validation. Silence also creates mystery, and mystery creates desire. She will start to wonder what you're thinking, why you're not reacting, and what makes you so different from other men. This keeps her attention locked on you because you're not giving her the easy satisfaction of predictability. Even in conflict, silence is a weapon that works to your advantage. Arguments thrive on reactions, but your silence disrupts that cycle. It forces her to deal with her own emotions while you remain unshaken. This doesn't mean you avoid addressing issues, it means you approach them with calmness and control, which shifts the entire tone of the interaction. In relationships, silence becomes a foundation for strength. It teaches her that you are not easily moved by external forces. She will learn that you are a man who operates on his own terms, who doesn't need to chase or beg for attention. This sets a precedent for how she interacts with you. She will come to you with respect, knowing that you are not someone to be taken lightly. But silence isn't just about what you don't say, it's about what you do. Your actions will speak volumes in the spaces your silence creates. Women are deeply attuned to what a man does, not just what he says. When you combine your silence with consistent, confident actions, you become unstoppable. Mastering silence doesn't mean withholding your voice forever. It means knowing when to speak, and when to let your presence do the work. It's about balance, using words only when they add value, and letting silence amplify your strength in every other moment. Through silence, you gain clarity. You begin to see the games that people play, the way egos clash and compete. But instead of getting caught in that chaos, you rise above it. You become the observer, the man who cannot be shaken or swayed. And that's what breaks her ego, not cruelty, not manipulation, but the realization that she is dealing with a man who is unlike anyone else. A man who doesn't bend, doesn't chase, and doesn't need her validation to feel whole. Your silence becomes the foundation of a powerful connection. It draws her closer, forces her to reflect, and ultimately makes her see you as someone she can't ignore. This is the strength of silence. It's the quiet force that commands attention, respect, and desire. When you live this way, you don't just attract her interest. You change the way she sees you, the way she thinks about you, and the way she interacts with you. Silence is the tool that makes her realize you are not just another man. You are the man. Silence is not just a tool, it's a mindset. It reshapes how you see yourself and how others see you. When you master it, you unlock a new way of interacting with the world, one that commands respect without demanding it, one that earns attention without begging for it. Silence isn't passive, it's an active assertion of your value, your boundaries, and your control. In a world dominated by noise, where people constantly seek validation through words, your silence will stand out. It will force her to stop and pay attention. It will make her question her assumptions, her actions, and her own ego. This isn't manipulation, it's reality. Silence is rare, and what is rare is valuable. She expects you to react. She expects you to chase, to explain, to try harder. When you don't, it disrupts everything she knows. It's like stepping into a world where the usual rules don't apply. Your silence is proof that you are not like the rest. You are not playing by the rules of ego and validation. Instead, you're rewriting the script by doing nothing, and yet, in doing so, you're doing everything. This dynamic is not about superiority, it's about presence. By choosing silence, you show her that you're not desperate for her attention. You show her that you don't need to dominate the conversation to assert your value. You become the man who listens, observes, and waits. And in that waiting, she feels the pull of your strength. When she's confronted with your silence, she begins to notice things she wouldn't otherwise see. She notices how calm you are, how unshaken you remain, and how composed you stay even in moments of tension. This composure makes her curious. It makes her want to understand you. And curiosity is the foundation of attraction. When she starts to wonder about you, what you're thinking, why you're not reacting, why you're so different, she begins to feel drawn to you. This is how silence creates a gravitational pull, one that words could never achieve. But silence doesn't mean absence. It doesn't mean avoiding her or ignoring her. It means choosing your moments wisely. It means understanding that you don't have to respond to every word, every test, every challenge. Instead, you respond when it matters, and you do so with intention. This balance is what makes silence powerful. It's not about shutting down, it's about showing restraint. It's about demonstrating that you are in control, not just of the situation, but of yourself. And that self-control is what will break her ego. Why? Because her ego thrives on your reactions. It feeds on your need to explain, defend, or impress. When you refuse to feed into it, when you remain calm and composed, it forces her to confront herself. It forces her to see that she can't shake you, that she can't control you. This doesn't mean you become cold or distant. It means you operate from a place of strength and certainty. Your silence isn't a wall, it's a foundation. It's the base on which you build trust, respect, and ultimately attraction. Over time, this dynamic shifts her perspective. She begins to see you as a man who doesn't waver, a man who doesn't fall into the traps of ego-driven games. She sees you as someone who is steady, grounded, and unshakably confident. And that's what women find irresistible, not just confidence, but the kind of confidence that doesn't need to be shouted. The kind of confidence that speaks through your actions, your presence, and yes, your silence. In her mind, you become a challenge, but not in the typical sense. You're a challenge because you're not easily figured out. You're not easily swayed. And this makes her want to invest more of her energy and attention into understanding you. This is how you break her ego, not by attacking it, but by showing her that you don't operate on the same level. You're above it, beyond it. And in doing so, you shift the dynamic entirely. As she begins to respect you, her interest naturally grows. She realizes that you're not just another man trying to impress her. You're a man who doesn't need to. And that, in itself, is the ultimate attraction. By mastering silence, you master yourself. And when you master yourself, you master the way others see and respond to you. This is the strength of silence. It's the quiet force that draws her in, breaks her ego, and makes her see you as the man who cannot be ignored. When you fully embrace silence, you begin to notice how much it changes the way people interact with you, especially women. Silence forces them to evaluate their own behavior because your lack of reaction gives them no feedback to rely on. In that moment, the power dynamic shifts entirely into your hands. Most women are accustomed to men who talk too much, who try to impress them with words, or who immediately react to every situation. Your silence disrupts this pattern. It communicates that you are not like the others, that you operate on a higher level of self-control and confidence. This subtle yet profound shift makes you stand out in ways you may not even realize at first. Her ego, which thrives on the validation of others, begins to falter. She expects attention and reactions. This is how her interactions with most men are structured. But your silence denies her that usual flow of validation. It forces her to work for your attention, to break her own patterns, and to reflect on why she feels compelled to seek your approval. In her mind, your silence translates to strength. It tells her that you don't need her to feel secure in yourself. And that realization makes her question her own sense of power. She begins to see that you're not someone she can easily read or manipulate. This intrigues her, pulls her in, and keeps her invested in the connection. But the power of silence goes beyond just creating attraction. It lays the groundwork for a deeper, more meaningful connection. By not rushing to fill every moment with words, you allow space for real communication to emerge. When you do speak, your words carry more weight because they are not overused. She listens more intently, values your thoughts more deeply, and begins to respect you on a level she may not even fully understand. Silence also has the ability to de-escalate conflict. In moments where emotions run high, staying silent shows incredible composure. While others may lash out or get defensive, your silence communicates calmness and control. This not only disarms her but also sets the tone for a more respectful and constructive interaction. In time, your silence becomes something she values, even craves. She will start to see it not as an absence, but as a sign of strength and stability. It becomes a quality that she associates with security, maturity, and emotional depth. And these are qualities that create lasting attraction and admiration. But silence isn't just for her benefit, it's for yours. By choosing silence, you give yourself the space to think clearly, to act intentionally, and to stay true to your values. It prevents you from being reactive or saying things you might later regret. It gives you the upper hand in every situation because it ensures that you're always in control of yourself first. Over time, silence becomes a habit, a way of life. It becomes your default state in situations where others lose their composure. This level of control makes you magnetic, not just to women but to everyone around you. You become the man people look up to, the one they trust, respect, and admire. The greatest thing about silence is that it doesn't require effort, it requires restraint. It's not about doing more, but about doing less. And in a world where everyone is trying so hard to be noticed, your silence will naturally make you stand out. So when you face moments where her ego is at play, remember this: you don't need to fight it. You don't need to argue, explain, or prove yourself. Your silence does all the work for you. It shows her that you are confident, composed, and in complete control. This is the power of silence. It's the quiet strength that breaks egos, commands respect, and builds genuine connections. It's the mark of a man who knows his worth and doesn't feel the need to shout it out. Through silence, you communicate everything she needs to know, that you are strong, grounded, and a man unlike any other. As you continue to embrace the strength of silence, you'll realize its profound impact not just on how others perceive you, but on how you perceive yourself. Silence is a mirror. It reflects your inner discipline, your self-control, and your ability to navigate the world without being swayed by external forces. When dealing with women, silence creates an aura of mystery that is nearly impossible to resist. It sets you apart from the crowd. Most men will try to win her over with words, excessive compliments, or unnecessary justifications. You, however, communicate your value without saying a word. This nonchalance unsettles her ego, forcing her to lean in, to understand you, to chase what she cannot easily grasp. Silence forces her to question her own power in the dynamic. She's used to commanding attention, to having men react to her every word or gesture. But when you stay calm and silent, you don't play into her expectations. You're not chasing, you're not reacting, and you're certainly not begging for validation. This unshakable confidence is magnetic. It's important to understand that women are deeply intuitive. They can sense when a man is trying too hard or is desperate for approval. Silence cuts through all of that. It conveys strength without effort, stability without arrogance. It tells her that you are a man who knows his worth, who doesn't need to speak to prove himself. In this space of silence, she starts to reflect on her own behavior. She realizes that she doesn't have the power over you that she might have over others. Her ego begins to soften, not because you attacked it, but because your silence disarmed it. She starts to respect you, not just for what you do, but for what you don't do. But silence is not just about attraction, it's about building trust. Women respect men who can listen, who don't interrupt or dominate conversations. Your silence shows that you're not in a rush to speak, that you value her thoughts and are secure enough to let her express herself without feeling the need to constantly interject. This creates a dynamic where she feels safe, heard, and respected. And paradoxically, the more you listen, the more she will be drawn to you. She will begin to seek your thoughts, your insights, and your attention. She will start to value your presence because it's not something you freely give to everyone. In moments of conflict or tension, silence becomes even more powerful. When she's upset or emotional, most men make the mistake of trying to fix things with words. But words, in such moments, often escalate the situation. Silence, on the other hand, creates a space where emotions can settle. It shows her that you are not reacting impulsively, that you are in control of yourself and the situation. This level of composure is rare, and it will leave a lasting impression. She will come to see you as someone who can handle challenges with grace, someone who doesn't let emotions dictate his actions. This stability is deeply attractive because it's a quality that provides a sense of security. Silence is also a test of patience, both yours and hers. It requires discipline to stay quiet when others are looking for a reaction. It requires strength to hold back when you could easily respond. But in that restraint, you gain the upper hand. You show her that you are not ruled by impulses, that you are a man of intention and thoughtfulness. Over time, your silence becomes synonymous with your presence. It becomes a part of who you are, a man who doesn't need to fight for attention because he naturally commands it. A man who doesn't need to prove himself because his actions speak louder than his words ever could. And as you master this way of being, you'll notice that the way women respond to you will change. They will be drawn to you not because of what you say, but because of how you carry yourself. They will respect you for your confidence, your discipline, and your ability to remain calm in a chaotic world. Through silence, you redefine what it means to connect with someone. You break through superficial ego-driven interactions and create something deeper, something real. You show her that you are a man of depth, of strength, and of purpose. This is how you break her ego, not through force, but through presence. Not by speaking louder, but by remaining silent. It's not about dominating her, it's about showing her that you are a man who cannot be dominated. When you master the power of silence, you don't just change how she sees you, you change how you see yourself. You become the man who doesn't seek validation but inspires it. The man who doesn't chase but attracts. The man who doesn't react but leads. In the end, silence isn't just about breaking her ego. It's about building a foundation of respect, trust, and genuine connection. It's about showing her, and the world, that you are a man who doesn't need to speak to be heard, who doesn't need to chase to be desired, and who doesn't need to explain to be understood. Through silence, you rise above. And that is where your true power lies. Mastering silence is mastering yourself. It's the ultimate display of confidence, self-control, and strength. When you live with this understanding, you transcend the noise and chaos of superficial interactions. Your silence becomes a force that draws others in, creates respect, and builds deeper connections. In a world where most men chase validation and approval with words, your silence will set you apart. It will make her see you as the man who doesn't react impulsively, who doesn't seek attention, and who operates with purpose and intention. Your silence isn't just the absence of words, it's the presence of power. She will feel the difference. She will notice your restraint, your control, and your calm demeanor. It will break her ego, not through conflict, but through the quiet strength that only a man of value can display. She will respect you because your silence communicates everything: confidence, discipline, and an unwavering sense of self-worth. But more importantly, silence transforms you. It gives you clarity, focus, and control over your emotions and actions. It frees you from the need to prove yourself to anyone and lets you live in alignment with your values. This is what makes you a man who doesn't just demand respect, he commands it naturally. As you embrace silence, you will notice the world responding differently to you. Women will be drawn to you, not because of what you say, but because of how you make them feel.